financial problems, elder law, criminal law, tax problems, business matters, divorce, personal injury, bankruptcy, your life, your reality. Life is complicated. There is the law and there is reality. Welcome to Law and Reality, sponsored by THAV GROSS. Now here's your host, Ken Gross.
Welcome to this segment of Law and Reality. Today's topic is how to stop the IRS computer from levying my paycheck and bank account. Good morning, Brian Small.
Good morning, Ken. I didn't know you were an IT specialist. This would be good today.
Good morning, Jeffrey Linden.
Good morning, Kenneth Gross.
Good morning, Jeffrey Kirshner.
Good morning. Isn't there just a plug? Did we just
Yeah.
plug it?
That would be great.
That would be nice. Well, the key is you have to have the cord in order to pull the plug. Because this plug could be, this could be your disabled client. This could be any of our clients that all of a sudden this computer is collecting money. So here's the big question to start. Why did I create this topic?
You
now?
didn't. AI did.
Maybe. I am starting to warm up to AI a little bit, I have to admit. I used ChatGPT for the first time in assistance in drafting an agreement last week because it was something that I didn't have any basis to work from, so I wanted some preliminary provisions. It helped, but it wasn't like the all to it all.
It can't do it. It can give you a basic outline to work off of.
What I did like about it is you can keep asking it to do more and more as it's going, and then it goes, all of a sudden it just keeps trickling down the agreement and revising it. I thought that was kind of cool.
ChatGPT is actually probably the most basic of all of them that are out there.
All right, but why did I pick this topic? Do you have
Because
a guess?
people are getting levied.
No,
I have a guess.
Yes.
Because of Doge, they're laying off a lot of people throughout the government.
There you go.
Including the IRS. So people are thinking, well, there's less workers around, therefore they're gonna.
The buzz.
They can't get to me because they've got.
There's a buzz out there that says if they're laying off all the IRS agents, and even like the other day I read that Trump wants to just get rid of the whole idea of the IRS and paying taxes.
Shocking.
Maybe shift us to a consumption tax basis. There's a mentality out there that says, well, maybe I shouldn't bother worrying about paying my taxes because they're not going to be able to come collect from me.
So the next administration.
Exactly.
That A, and B, there's a computer. And
Yep.
this big computer, which computers don't have to be very big anymore, most of the levies, Jeff will tell you, the levies that hit your bank account and the wage levies that hit your wages don't come from this mean, gritty IRS agent sitting in an office in Maryland.
Yep.
They come from a computer,
They come from ACS, Automated Collection System.
which is a computer system.
Yes.
And they automatically come, and if you're filing your tax return or not filing your tax return, but your wages are being withheld from your wages are being held, or the government is sending in 1099s are going in and W-2s are going in, and you're not filing your returns, and the government will automatically file a return for you, assess the taxes, and then ACS will go and collect it.
In fact, I just actually read an article on this thing. They're using AI as well, and even with staffing shortages. So the IRS AI.
Well, that could be because there is no actual intelligence in Washington.
So it has to be artificial.
That's right.
No, but they're using, so the IRS is sending, it's the CP14 letter, which is the you owe us money letter. 27,000 are going out this month. 27,000 letters to 27,000 taxpayers because of the computers and AI. That's how they're running through most of them.
How is AI helping?
They identify the computers crunch your tax return numbers or your income statements, your W-2s and your 1099s, and they figure out, and they can figure out, and then they look for a filing, right? If there's no filing, you get this letter. If there is a filing and you haven't paid, you get that letter. It just runs through the computer algorithm. They have your address, and it pre-prints and spits out the mail.
So bottom line is, if you're getting 1099s, or if you're getting a W-2, and you're not filing your tax return, the computer system and AI will then process and start the collection process after you. First to file the return,
Right.
and then if you don't file the return, what will happen?
You'll get the CP14, which is you need to file your return. No, the CP14 is you owe us the money. So you get you haven't filed your such and such return. You'll get a couple of those, and then eventually the service will do what's called an SFR, a substitute for return. They'll file your return for you.
And then once they file the return for you, then they'll start you into the collection process because they assess the tax
Right.
and it becomes liable.
What-
You said SFR. That triggers a word that
It does,
is
but-
very near and dear to you.
Well, a substitute for return, if that reaches that point and you want to file bankruptcy to discharge your obligation to the IRS, you can't because
Well,
it's
what's-
never dischargeable.
Well, that doesn't matter. Taxes are never dischargeable anyway.
That's
are
not
they?
true. Income taxes are dischargeable.
Common misconception out there. Most people think that taxes are not dischargeable.
They start. It's a simple rule.
How come when you see the billboard on TV, or when you're driving on the freeway and you see the billboard, it doesn't say that taxes are dischargeable? How come it doesn't say that?
Well,
Which billboard?
why would the
Not an IRS billboard, but a
why would
company
the
that's
tax
advertising-
service that is trying to make money off of
Well,
you?
wait. Just no. I don't see any IRS billboards when I'm driving down the freeway.
No.
I see billboards from companies that are saying we can take care of your tax problems, but they never tell you that taxes are dischargeable.
No, they
they're not
don't,
bankruptcy
because that's
lawyers.
not how they make money.
They're not bankruptcy lawyers. They don't do bankruptcy law.
Even most bankruptcy lawyers don't know what to do.
Well,
I
it
know,
needs
but
a
that's-
bankruptcy to get rid of the tax liability. Well, the tax
Some.
services can't do that.
Some, not all. But
Like, can
that's-
Optima Tax Relief discharge your taxes in bankruptcy?
No.
no.
Because they don't do bankruptcy.
But that's the
Right.
point.
They have a
I
good
mean,
jingle.
in all seriousness for a second,
Very-
that's the
very
point
good
of going to a narrow lane service. They only know, they're selling you what they know. They can't look at the big picture. They can't give you options. Whereas we, have a team in multidisciplines, and we look at solving your problem,
if we can't-
how we're going to solve it,
we can
whatever
solve
needs
it.
we
You
need.
can-
You know, and we
offer
have a
compromise?
nifty name for it too: financial crisis management. What a concept!
Maybe that's too broad. Maybe we need to narrow the definition.
I don't know.
But
Let's talk
take a
about
break.
it after the break.
If you're retired and in a financial crisis, there is a way out.
It pains me when I see a retired couple exhaust their savings by paying credit card bills and for a home hopelessly underwater.
THAV GROSS specializes in helping retired people in financial crisis.
You just can't keep paying until you're broke. You need to address the problem now.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
We're THAV GROSS. Our firm will solve your problem.
You can't work. You have to deal with pain and stress. Worse yet, our system for applying for disability benefits seeks to deny you the benefits you're entitled. Jeff Kirshner is an expert in obtaining disability and workers' compensation benefits for his clients. You need to call Jeff before you apply or after you're denied to get the benefits you deserve. 888-235-HELP. 888-235-HELP. Tax problems are major problems. Don't let the IRS levy your wages and seize your assets. There is a solution.
We're THAV GROSS. Our firm will solve your problem.
If you're behind on your taxes and owe money to the IRS, call THAV GROSS.
We've been solving tax problems for 32 years. We stop wage levies, resolve unfiled returns, and obtain the best possible settlements.
Call THAV GROSS today, 888-235-HELP.
You know, Dad always asked that we look after Mom when he passed away.
I know, but she insisted on moving down to the Villages, and now she has that new boyfriend, and I am worried.
Maybe it's time to just call Samasco Law.
Take the stress out of your family's future. Reach out to Samasco Law and set a course through life's difficult times. Samasco Law, protecting what means most because that's what we do.
Is the debt piling up? Struggling to get by?
It's all about preserving future income. Bankruptcy is one option. When it's right, it's the least costly, most effective way to save your home, eliminate a second mortgage, and wipe out credit card debt. But you need to address the problem now.
We help people with bankruptcy. Call the experts.
We're THAV GROSS. Our firm will solve your problem.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP. Carrying too much debt? Resolve your debt. Call THAV GROSS.
You don't need to be broke, and you don't need to hit rock bottom. If you have income and you're struggling with debt, dump it. Think about the next 10 or 20 years. If you do what the banks tell you, you'll have nothing to retire with. There is a solution.
Don't waste your future. Call THAV GROSS. We're experts at eliminating credit card debt. 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
All right, so not kidding aside, but beyond the artificial intelligence and the computer, Jeff, what are you seeing out there right now? Would you say collection activity by IRS has increased or decreased in the last 6 months?
It's definitely increased, which is ironic because given our current president's attitude towards the IRS, everybody was thinking the opposite would happen, but it's definitely increased.
If you think about it, it doesn't surprise me that much in this perspective. Think about student loans. They're aggressively now going after collection of student loans.
Well, of course they are, because student loans just finally became due again. And you have up to 10 million people now in default on student loans.
Yes, but I think it's an attitude. I think the attitude of the government is, if you are a struggling person trying to make ends meet, we don't give a rat's blank about that. If you owe us money, we want to collect it.
We're going to make you struggle even more.
If, however, you have a net worth higher than $10 or $15 million, they're not going to worry about you too much.
I can tell you in my perspective.
That seems to be the attitude. I don't. Fortunately for me, I don't fit in either category.
So just like those guys, in my world, we're seeing a lot more aggressive action from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Any case that was litigated that Medicare had paid some money on, they're being uber aggressive now in terms of trying to collect their money that
They
may or
overpaid or
should
something?
have paid. Well, a lot of times when you've got a case that comp was supposed to pay, that Medicare paid, maybe you do or don't know about the lien, year or two, 5 years later, Medicare comes back and says, wait a second, we shouldn't have paid that, you owe us the money, and people who are on Social Security now are getting letters that they're digging their Social Security
15%
until
of
they
the
get
Social
their,
Security,
until they get their money
So
back.
now that, interestingly,
That's
that
Doge.
obligation to Medicare or Medicaid, whoever it is, or any governmental overpayment that was not incurred by fraud, is dischargeable in bankruptcy. So
Whether it's 7 or 13,
yeah, it doesn't make a
is it
difference.
unsecured debt?
It is, and the benefit that's being taken away is they have the right to set off, but the minute you discharge
So
it,
if you filed the bankruptcy, they couldn't continue to levy your Social Security?
that's correct.
Okay, that's important. Because there's going to be more, and this is something new that you're seeing.
But not as to
I'm
student
much more-
loans,
much
because
more-
student loans have the ability to levy Social Security, and so the student loan is generally not dischargeable. But we are still seeing the ability to discharge, even under the current administration, student loans if you meet the requirements.
So what's the procedure if you're in a bankruptcy to get the student loan discharged?
Well, you have to file an adversary complaint, a lawsuit against the government seeking to discharge the obligation. However, we have a whole bunch of tools in our wheelhouse, so to speak, that lets us do the analysis of the student loan and its potential dischargeability before we file that lawsuit. Before you spend the big bucks,
You
we're
don't care
95% sure whether or not you're going to be able
So
to
when
discharge
you
those
file
loans.
that type of a claim, does that type of a claim, like most litigation gets settled?
It is a settled case.
It is.
Yes.
So do you end up settling paying a little small portion of the student loan
No,
back? or-
so the general result is if you do the analysis and it says, and you're going to file that adversary complaint, you're going to be absolved of your student loans.
So what if
you might get a partial discharge?
Yeah.
of your student
What
loans.
if the case is iffy? What if you could make the claim, but you don't know that you can successfully prove it?
That's where you are going to have to actually litigate the case, and that.
Will they fight you all the way and make it go to trial,
Yes.
or will they settle?
Yes, they will. They do not settle the iffy cases because they're generally really are non-dischargeable. But the Department of Justice, in concert with the Department of Education, which may not exist next week, currently has a program where you file the complaint to discharge student loans, you file an attestation that lays out all the factors.
That you meet the criteria.
That you meet the, right, and it's a very detailed attestation. It gets sent to the AUSA, the Attorney General's office, and then they review it, and it takes 3-4 months, and you get a response saying, we agree, and then they stipulate to the discharge.
You file the adversary and that starts the process?
Yes.
Okay, so, and then if they don't agree, then what do you do?
Then you have
decide
to
either
determine
dismiss
whether or not you're going to dismiss the case or fight it. And if you're going to fight it, then we go from having this understanding to following what's called the Brunner test. The Brunner test basically
It's a very difficult test.
It's almost impossible to discharge a student loan under
so
Brunner.
unless the ASA signs off on, they can sign off on easier criteria if they choose to, but if they don't, then you go to the harder test?
Correct.
Wasn't the Brunner test something about the cats?
So, yeah, basically, we used to, when student loans, how difficult it is to discharge a student loan under Brunner, there was a woman who had a pet cat, and it cost her $15 a month in food
and whatever.
And she could not discharge her student loans because she had the ability to pay her student loan.
So had she killed the cat, then she might have been able to...
It's extremely possible.
That's a tough rule. So
I don't know. It was a cat.
Well, I mean,
no, I don't want to offend
there
any
are
cats.
adoption options. I mean, you don't have to assassinate the cats all the time.
That's good. That's good. But you have to find an adoptee to take the cat.
do.
Someone will take the cat. Because if you take them to a shelter, they only have so long before it's...
Well, that depends on the shelter.
But again, it's government enforcement, whether it's student loans or income taxes. The government isn't going to let you scot-free on your obligations unless you act. If you ignore it and stick your head in the sand, they're coming after you.
All right, so we're coming up to the break. When we come back, I want to say, how do we stop a wage levy or a garnishment on a bank account? We'll take a break.
Carrying too much debt? Resolve your debt. Call THAV GROSS.
You don't need to be broke, and you don't need to hit rock bottom. If you have income and you're struggling with debt, dump it. Think about the next 10 or 20 years. If you do what the banks tell you, you'll have nothing to retire with. There is a solution.
Don't waste your future. Call THAV GROSS. We're experts at eliminating credit card debt. 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
So we only have one last question for you. If your son passes away before you, do you want his share to go to his kids or your new daughter-in-law?
Talk about inheritance.
Yeah, sweetie, and I'm going to spend it all on you.
The kids.
You've worked hard your whole life to create a lasting legacy for your heirs. Let Samasco Law help you make the right decisions to protect the ones you love. Samasco Law, protecting what means most, because that's what we do.
Is the debt piling up? Struggling to get by?
It's all about preserving future income. Bankruptcy is one option. When it's right, it's the least costly, most effective way to save your home, eliminate a second mortgage, and wipe out credit card debt. But you need to address the problem now.
We help people with bankruptcy. Call the experts.
We're THAV GROSS. Our firm will solve your problem.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
Time for announcements. I want to announce we've opened, THAV GROSS has opened a new office downriver in the Horizon building on Eureka Road. So now we're in Flint, downriver, and also our home office in Bingham Farms. Remember, you can always come in for a free consultation. You can do it by Zoom conference, in the office, any way that works best for you. Just call 888-235-HELP or go to the website, thavgross.com, to sign up. Debt issues, tax issues, estate planning issues, business law issues, elder law issues with Pat or Kelsey, disability issues with Jeff Kirshner. Again, sign up at lawandreality.com or thavgross.com or just call 888-235-HELP. Also, if you go to the website, you'll see there's free reports. Resolving Tax Problems, The Real Solutions by Jeff Linden and myself. Bankruptcy, Is It Right for Me by Brian Small. How to Save Your Home from Foreclosure. Business Formations, Loans and Grants for Small Businesses in Detroit and Michigan. And The Retiree's Guide to Social Security by Pat Samasco. I want to thank our sponsors, THAV GROSS, Samasco Law, Kirshner Law. Now back to the show.
If you're retired and in a financial crisis, there is a way out.
It pains me when I see a retired couple exhaust their savings by paying credit card bills and for a home hopelessly underwater.
THAV GROSS specializes in helping retired people in financial crisis.
You just can't keep paying until you're broke. You need to address the problem now.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
We're THAV GROSS. Our firm will solve your problem.
You can't work. You have to deal with pain and stress. Worse yet, our system for applying for disability benefits seeks to deny you the benefits you're entitled. Jeff Kirshner is an expert in obtaining disability and workers' compensation benefits for his clients. You need to call Jeff before you apply or after you're denied to get the benefits you deserve. 888-235-HELP. 888-235-HELP. Tax problems are major problems. Don't let the IRS levy your wages and seize your assets. There is a solution.
We're THAV GROSS. Our firm will solve your problem.
If you're behind on your taxes and owe money to the IRS, call THAV GROSS.
We've been solving tax problems for 32 years. We stop wage levies, resolve unfiled returns, and obtain the best possible settlements.
Call THAV GROSS today, 888-235-HELP.
So the mean, lean machine generated a wage levy to a client of yours, and to another client generated a bank levy. And they've both called you on the same day because they need help.
Do you have them talk to each other?
The taxpayer owes $20,000. There's $8,000 in the bank, and the bank sent them a notice saying, we're holding your $8,000.
They're not holding it. Wait, no, they sent them a notice saying they're paying it over to the Internal Revenue Service unless you do something.
The wage levy, they're withholding 75% of the person's, 75% of the person's paycheck.
Everything but like what, $354 a month?
It's like 400 and something. Unless, well, I mean, you get a form and you can adjust that, but it's most.
What if the levy hits? Is it too late, or how do you how do you get that money back?
It's not too late, but I do want to emphasize that if the levy hits, you have ignored a mountain of letters telling you this was going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's not just one letter. They do.
So wait,
they put you on notice.
I want to get to the heart though.
No,
so,
you would file.
No, wait. Your point on ignoring the letters is this: if you're getting those letters, take action immediately before the levy, because it's easier and less costly for you to fix the problem, right?
Absolutely.
But if you have if you've ignored the letters,
and I'll note something: if you got levied, and the bank account that has your money in it is being held by the bank, it becomes extremely difficult to hire the attorney to fix the problem.
You don't have
because you don't have the money.
You
Right.
might have a credit card. But the key point is, if that happens to you, you're not alone, because it does happen. You've gotten the notices for one reason or another, you blew it, you didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Now, how do you solve that problem? For all of you that are getting the notices that haven't been levied, what we're telling you is take action now. Don't wait to be in this situation.
Right.
But what do you do in this situation?
If the timing is right, we can do a collection due process or an equivalency hearing, which will stop the levy and get you into one of the collection alternative programs.
So when you ask for a collection due process hearing, do they then release the levy?
They can. It depends on what happens, but yes, they will release the levy. Oftentimes, most often, no, but you will get most of it back. as long as you can complete the process, which is getting into one of the other relief programs, which means you have to have unfiled returns filed, and you have to be in, have an offer in compromise processed, some form of installment plan, or be currently not collectible.
All right, so here's the point. There's a solution, but you have to then take affirmative steps. You hire Jeff. He files the papers for a collection due process hearing. If you have unfiled returns, we got to immediately link you together with an accountant or a tax return preparer to get the returns prepared and filed. You have to take the steps and do the action. But if you do what's required, how does it play out?
The levy will get released, and you'll be in one of the programs.
What's the timeline for getting the levy released, realistically, so people understand?
Well, once the levy hits, you have to get a resolution within 21 days, or the bank will hold the money for 21 days before.
So in that 21-day period, you get a resolution. That's why you have to move fast.
You have to move very fast.
Right. So what are the programs you're talking about?
There's offer in compromise, which is settling the debt for less than you owe, which is based on your assets versus your income.
Well, you can't get that done in 21 days.
Most likely not. It'd be an installment payment plan of some kind. There's various kinds depending on the criteria. There's currently not collectible, which is the IRS will recognize if you show to them that you don't have the income to pay, and they'll hold off.
So cool me in a little bit, because I know that you can file the collection due process hearing, and then that will go to an appeals level, and you actually have a conference. But that's not going to occur in the 21 days. So filing the collection due process hearing, how do you then get the levy released?
If you talk to them, you have to call the agent, you talk to the levy, and you work something out. Well, they'll work to get the levy released. If you are qualified for a collection due process hearing, which is a timing issue, and you file it on time, it will freeze the levy. So it'll stop. It won't go forward.
So when it freezes it, it doesn't release it, though? It just doesn't get the money.
Just does money.
The money sits at the bank.
Right.
Doesn't go to the IRS, and then once you get your hearing thing, you can then once you get a resolution, you can then get the money released.
Yeah.
So let's say it's $8,000 they're holding. You get a payment plan that says $100 a month. They'll take $100 and they'll release the $8,000.
Often.
Okay.
And
so there's
also
a good solution.
There
here.
are other solutions too.
Yeah.
I know we don't have time because we're coming up to the end of the show, but I'll remind everybody. Also, Chapter 7 bankruptcy will release the levy. Chapter 13 bankruptcy will release the levy, and they have to give the money back as long as you can protect it with an exemption.
So if bankruptcy is right, that's actually a faster remedy.
Absolutely.
Much, yes.
Yeah, much faster. Like
But
literally, I can file a bankruptcy today, and the IRS has to release the money today.
But it's, in all cases, whether it's bankruptcy or within the IRS tax resolution, your compliance requirement, you're having your returns filed through the current year, must be done.
So you got to move fast but you can move fast and get returns filed quickly. You just because if you don't have the information, you estimate. You can always get it done if you commit to doing it and you follow what the right advice. If you put roadblocks in front of you, you'll stop. There is no roadblocks when it comes to getting your money. You get in the car and you drive through the roadblock and you get your money, and that's what it's about. Have a great week. We'll be back next week with Law and Reality.